Okay, here's the Solvang Trolley, decked out for Christmas. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, here's the 3 o'clock trolley leaving. It's actually a bus. It's designed to look like a trolley. All right. Okay.
Now, of course, we do appreciate any generosity in the way of tips you ever leave. More importantly, I hope that you guys all enjoyed the tour.
I don't have any money for tips.
Most importantly for me, I hope that you were able to.
Neither do I. Maybe I could run on one of my cards.
On the way out, and have a great rest of your day here in Solvang. If any of these guys in line were listening, just erase that. Alright, I'm going to let the people in front off first.
Yeah.
Perfect. Welcome everybody to Solvang. Welcome to the Solvang Trolley, and welcome to the Danish capital of America. We're glad to have you all aboard today. My name is Harvey. I'll be your guide. This is Mr. Sal. He'll be your driver. Now, we are officially beginning the tour. I'm going to tell you why your trolley tickets are so important. Now, you want to make sure that you hold on to those when you are done with the tour. That is because they can get you discounts at the Solvang Trolley Ice Cream Parlor, located just behind the blue windmill over there. Now, your tickets themselves tell you that on the back side of them, but what they don't tell you is that there are several more locations all over town that sponsor the trolley. And at every single one of those sponsors, you can use your tickets to get discounts. So as we pass by all of our sponsored locations, I'll point them out to you. Starting with the Solvang Spice and Tea Merchant coming up on your right. Now in there you can get imported spices and teas from all over the world. So that is a great place to get discounts. Now that all that's out of the way, who is ready to learn about some history?
Yes.
Great. Well, Solvang was founded in the year
Denmark.
They came from Denmark. I don't feel too bad if you weren't thinking that. People always get that question wrong. I had one person yesterday say the Danish people came from the bakery, which is not true. Well, they sailed over here from Denmark. It was about a 3-month voyage over the sea from Denmark to the States. Now, by the time they got here, it was about the late 1800s. Now, when they did come to the United States, they had initially settled all the way out in the Midwest. However, they didn't like the Midwest very much. They thought that it was much too cold over there, and that it reminded them too much of their home back in Denmark. So what did they do? Well, they sent 3 gentlemen out west. It was 2 ministers and a doctor. And after about 2 years of searching around the country, they found themselves here in the San Ynez Valley. Now here in the valley, they saw that conditions were a little more favorable, and they decided that here is where they wanted to settle. But they also knew just what to call their new settlement. Now, does anybody want to take a guess as to what they might have called their new
Atterdag.
How'd you know? Yes, they did. They called the town Solvang. Now, the word Solvang itself actually means sunny fields. Yeah. Now, today that is a rather accurate description. However, it's not always the case. Believe it or not, it does get a little cloudy here sometimes, like yesterday. But for the most part, it is always sunny. As we go through the rest of the town, you'll notice that we have a very specific little aesthetic that we like to adhere to. Now, the town did not always look like this. There was actually a point in time where Solvang looked like a normal town. Now, those days are long gone. It wasn't until the 1940s did they change and Solvang gained any sort of popularity. Now, Now, in the 40s, we were having a celebration called the Danish Days. Now, Danish Days are something that we still celebrate to this day. What Danish Days are, they are a celebration that the whole town puts together to celebrate our Danish heritage here, to really embrace the culture that the town was founded on.
A new house being
So during the
built.
Danish Days of 1947, a reporter from the Saturday Evening Post had been sent to write an article about the town. Now, in his article, he had described our town in coming over here. But by the time all of those tourists got here, the celebrations were over. And they quickly found out that it was not the magical little Danish Disneyland that they were promised, but rather a normal town full of normal people, which they were very, very disappointed with. So the leaders of the town, upon seeing the potential for tourism, they all formed a meeting. And as we go through the rest of the town, I think we can see what the outcome of that meeting was. By various local artists. So it is a great way to support the local community by always having new art in there. Every couple of months they have a whole new display. Now coming up on your left we have Olsen's Bakery. Olsen's is another one of our sponsors. They're also one of 7 bakeries that we have here in town. Solvang is very famous for its bakeries. Also coming up on your left, we have the second of 3 windmills that we'll be seeing on the tour. Now the first windmill is that little blue one where you got on. This is the second one. I have a story about this windmill, but I will be saving it for later, so I have something to talk about when we come back to it. But in the meantime, I'll tell you about the Christmas store. Now, the Christmas store is going to be on your right in a few moments. Here in Solvang, we take the holidays very seriously. As you can see, we pass by Solvang Park. Also coming up on your right, we have Mortensen's Bakery. Now, Mortensen's is not one of our sponsors, so we won't talk too much about them. But notice on their sign, they do have a little crown. That crown is very important. However, let's see. We're going to get into that in a little bit as well. Because right now I got to tell you all about wine. On both sides of the street over here, we have some wine tasting. Wine is, of course, one of the biggest businesses in this area. The Santa Barbara County is home to over 160 different wineries, and we are the fastest growing wine county in California. Now, moving on to the next thing. How many of you are familiar with a name Hans Christian Andersen?
Yes.
1, 2, 3. That is 3 more people than I usually get. Santa Claus? I think he might be on vacation here in Solvang. Hans Christian Andersen is one of the most famous storytellers in the entire world. He is responsible for writing a lot of very famous fairy tales. He wrote including, but certainly not limited to, Thumbelina, the Ugly Duckling, The Princess and the Pea, The Snow Queen, The Emperor's New Clothes, The Little Mermaid, and a whole bunch of others that we don't need to mention. Because I
Red
don't
stop,
know
Ryan.
it's a very long list of fairy tales.
Ryan. Slow down, Daddy.
See, our park is decorated for the holidays. Now, speaking of the holidays, we have actually had our very own Christmas movie made here in Solvang. It's one of those very cheesy, very romantic, very low-budget Hallmark kind of movies.
Yeah, Red Star.
I've never seen it, but I hear it's amazing.
Oh, that's a popular parking lot. Yeah, there, yeah.
However, I have been told by people that have watched it that it was definitely made by people who are not from California. things that happen in the movie that don't happen here. For instance, it snows in the movie.
What is
In
it?
Solvang, it has only snowed twice within the last 200
More
years.
what?
It snowed one time in 1999, and it snowed another
More
time
Sonic? Sonic Clips?
in
Oh, do you want to
1922.
see Sonic Clips?
Again, I was told that by people who have seen the movie. I definitely wouldn't watch something like that. Now, coming up
It's the
on
clock
the right,
tower.
we'll be passing by a very special little dress shop. Now, what I want to talk about it is the roof. Now, that is a very special roof. That is an authentic thatched roof. It is the only one left in town. All of the other thatched roofs are now gone. This one was built back in the 70s. And it's guaranteed to last about 100 years. If it does not catch up and burn to a crisp. Now you all know the saying, it's raining cats and dogs. You can thank these roofs for that being a thing. Back in the day when these were a lot more commonplace over in Europe, a lot of the times animals such as cats and dogs would dig into them to try and escape from rain. And they'd fall into people's houses. So the people inside would always say, it must be raining cats and dogs out there. Are the founders of Solvang. Now, just beside them, there actually stands a giant Lego man. Even though he stands right next to them, don't let him fool you. He's not one of the founders. Legos are a big deal here in Solvang because Lego was actually invented over in Denmark. The word Lego itself means to play well. And here in Solvang, we certainly do play well with our Legos, as every year during the Danish days, there is a little Lego building competition, which is a lot of fun. Now, right over here on your left, this is the Solvang Knives store. The Solvang Knives store is another sponsor of ours. They sell knives in there.
Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah.
Also coming up on your left is the King Christian Tower Shops. Now the centerpiece of it there, that big green tower, that is a 1/3 scale replica of the Stock Exchange Tower that stood in Copenhagen. Yeah. Now the reason I say stood is because the original burned down a few months ago, so for now we have the only one. But you'll notice that there are 4 creatures on the top 4 corners of it there. Now, even though they look like wiener dogs, those are actually meant to be dragons, and their tails are intertwined. That is meant to symbolize the unity between the 4 Scandinavian countries, those being Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and Finland. Also coming up on your left, we have this adorable little white house over here. Now this is one of the oldest houses in town. It was actually built back in the 20s, and it was purchased from the Sears catalog.
That one.
For only about this one, for $200. Now if that house were to sell today, it would be upwards of $1 million. A little fun fact about that house, that is the former home of one of the founders of Solvang. I believe it was the doctor. Coming up on your right, we're going to be passing by another unique house, that being this little Spanish-looking house. Now, around town, you'll see a few buildings that look like this, and you might think that they look a little out of place. Well, sorry about that. The reason that we have a lot of Spanish influence here in Solvang is because the Spanish actually settled in this area hundreds of years before the Danish ever even thought about coming here. Now, of course, before the Spanish were here, there were the Chumash. If you don't know who the Chumash are, they are the Native Americans that live around here, and they still have a very large presence here in the valley. There is the reservation in the next town over, in San Ynez, along with the Museum of the Chumash History, which should be opening soon. And, of course, there is the casino. take a right at this stop sign, you'll find yourself heading down towards the Motorcycle Museum. Now, the Motorcycle Museum is a very awesome museum. It's a museum for motorcycles, so why would it not be awesome? Especially when they have over 200 motorcycles on display down there. So that's a very awesome place to check out.
Oh, that one, right? Yes, I
A
remember.
motorcycle.
Where is that?
I don't know. I guess it's on that way. It's fine.
Right over here on your left, we have some more of those Sears houses. Now, these ones are a little more recent. I believe these are from the 40s, and then that one is from the 50s. These ones are no longer residential homes. I believe they are Airbnbs.
I smell
Also,
the
kind of on
ocean.
your right, we're going to be passing by
Yeah,
the
what
third
is that?
and final windmill of the tour.
Flat.
Now, this windmill actually has a little bit of history to it. Around town, you'll notice that none of the windmills actually spin, and many of them have never spun either, except for this one coming up. Now,
Flying colors.
back in the 60s, after its construction, that windmill was allowed to spin freely in the wind. But we were hit with a very terrible storm. Now, the storm had that windmill spinning so fast that one of the blades actually snapped off and was sent flying into the post office right over here. So because of that little incident, there are no longer any spinning windmills here in Solvang. They are all simply for decoration only.
Yeah.
Let's see. If you look to your left, you'll see some storks. But since we are here in California and storks are migratory birds, we don't get very many of them. So instead of having real storks, we just built windmills. Also back there on your left, there's a really cool...
Is it train station? Is train station is your train station? It's empty. When it's full, what do you do? And walk it.
Red Viking statue blocks your path. That is another sponsor of ours, the Red Viking restaurant. They have very delicious breakfast and lunch.
Yeah.
Coming up over here on your right, we have
remember this
Bart
street.
Holmes Bakery. Now, Bart Holmes is another sponsor of ours. They are also one of the oldest establishments in town. This family's been baking for about 3 generations, and they are my favorite bakery.
Yeah, just give me a hug.
On the other side of this parking lot over here is Old Mission San Ynez. Now, Old Mission San Ynez was established in 1804 by the Spanish. There's a very beautiful rose garden in there. You can actually take tours of the Old Mission. But if you do visit, just make sure to be respectful, because to this day it is an active Catholic church.
Yeah, I know.
Now we're about to turn by one of Solvang's most famous picture spots, that being Our Little Mermaid. Now, Our Little Mermaid was a gift to the town in 1976 from the Danish. She is a half-scale replica of the real Little Mermaid statue that sits over in Copenhagen Harbor to this day. Now, unlike her counterpart over in Denmark, ours is very safe over here. She's going to be on your right as we turn right here. And she sits in front of Chomp Burgers and Fries, a very delicious restaurant here in town. They are also one of our sponsors.
Hey, sweetie, it's a cold, so I wouldn't. Yeah.
Coming up on your left, we have the Book Loft. Now, the Book Loft is a great place to buy books. Just above it is the Hans Christian Andersen Museum. Now, the Hans Christian Andersen Museum is a free museum. How you get into it, all you have to do is go into the bookstore and take the stairs up, and you'll be in the museum.
Oh, the Christmas tree.
Now, coming up, when we pass by the park again, you might catch a glimpse of 3 little stones holding up a giant boulder. Now, even though they just look like rocks, they actually have a very cool purpose. Now, those are actually meant to be Viking burial stones. Now, there isn't actually a Viking buried right there, as cool as that would be. They're just there for decoration. But the cool thing about them is where they came from.
Oh, let's
So
go
we're a gift to the
Christmas
town from
village.
the Danish royalty.
Still there.
Now, speaking of the royalty of Denmark, Solvang has actually been visited by them on 4 separate occasions. The most recent was actually back in 2011. I did mention earlier something about a crown. Now we're going to touch upon that. Around town you'll see a few establishments with a crown either on top of the sign or just above the doorway. Now what those crowns mean is that at some point in that business's lifetime, they were visited by either the king or queen of Denmark. That is a neat little piece of history that often gets a little overlooked. And you might notice that the rooftop next to it is a little damaged. That is because at the beginning of this year, we were hit with a very terrible storm. Now, if you paid attention to the last windmill, you might see some similarities here. Now, even though the windmill doesn't spin, it still did not do very well in the storm. It destroyed not just one, but 2 of the blades. One of them fell onto the roof and the other fell onto the dining area below. Now, luckily, the blades have since been fixed, but they have not yet fixed the roof. You'll see it right over here on your right. Pass by and notice how the rooftop inside it is a little smashed up.
Oh, hey.
Now, moving forward, if you keep going straight down this road instead of turning like we will, you'll find yourself heading down to the ostrich farm. Now, the ostrich farm is a very cool farm. You can actually go down there and you can feed the ostriches. Don't try to pet them though because they're very funny.
Be careful.
You can also, oh yeah, it's cool. You can also purchase ostrich eggs down at the farm. One ostrich egg is about the same as 24 chicken eggs. Wow. Yeah, so that's a very large egg. They also taste the same, which is very nice. The price. All you gotta do is just keep going down this way and you'll see them. Yeah. It's only about a 3-minute drive. Down there. Huh? The eggs? Last I checked, it was about $40 per egg.
Yeah, respond.
Now we're going to head over into some more residential areas now to show you guys how the rest of the town really lives. Now you might be surprised to find out that people do actually live here, or that they can afford to. About 6,000 people live here. Now of those 6,000, only around 10% of them are actually Danish, or of Danish descent. Now that might sound like a very small number, mostly because it is, but that's more Danish people here today than there were when the town was founded. But there were only 80 people here when the town was founded, so how does that work? Well, it's not a matter that there are less and less Danish people here as time goes by, there are actually more and more. But there's also more and more of everyone else. So because of all of the diversity in town now, the Danish population only makes up about 10% of the total population. Now we're going to pause here to see if our friends will wave back at us. Nah, not today. Looks like it's bedtime. Anyways, now have you noticed all those little red flags with the white crosses all over town?
That's the flag of Denmark.
Anybody know what that flag is and why it's important? That is the Danish
Danish
flag.
flag.
Flag of Denmark. Now, I want to let you guys in on a little fun fact about the Danish flag. It is actually the oldest flag in the entire world that is still being flown.
Oh, MIT.
It dates back to a little before the 1200s. So that is over 1,000, or just about 1,000 years of that flag being around. You also notice on your left, as we pass by our fire station, that our fire trucks here in Solvang are actually white and blue instead of being red. Now the reason for that is because ours are actually provided to us by Santa Barbara County. If you go down to Santa Barbara City, you'll see that they do have the regular red trucks, but because ours are meant to cover a larger area, they are not given city colors. Because they're stationed in Solvang, they are given Solvang's colors of white and blue. And they do cover more than just the valley. I've seen them down in Lompoc and up in Santa Barbara sometimes. Or down in Santa Barbara. I always forget where I am. You'll see some more Solvang stores up here.
Oh, look, a hummingbird.
And now we're going to tell you about the Elverhoy. Now the Elverhoy Museum is this giant museum coming up on your right. It is a free museum, however it is full, so they won't be open very much longer. So your best bet... Yeah. They're going to be open for about an hour. So if you wanted to come check out this museum, you can do so. Again, it is a free museum. This place was actually to live in. In the 80s, after he passed away, it was donated to the city and turned into the museum. Now today, there is an art exhibit in there as well to pay homage to the artist that built the place. Now, in addition to his art, they also feature various art from Danish artists as well. Now, this is a very historical building. That is because it is one of the few buildings that actually utilizes the authentic half-timber sort of architecture. Now, clearly not on the outside anymore, but if you go inside, it is still as it was. Now, the reason that a lot of these buildings here are fake is because that style of building does not really hold up very well over here in California. The thing is, when all those Danish people came here, they would use Danish architecture to build their houses, which after a couple of years would come crumbling down. Now, over the years we have modernized it and upkept it to keep it around longer, but that has been a pain in the city because the original construction of the building utilized 0 nails and 0 screws. So it has been a pain to upkeep, but hopefully it sticks around for many more years to come. Now, before we wrap things up, does anybody have any questions that they've just been dying to know the answers to? None whatsoever. Great. I don't have very many answers anyway, so it's okay. When we go down here, we're going to get another view of our fire station. And also, you see the Solvang Theater. Now, the Solvang Theater is this giant building that's going to be coming up in a little bit. It was built back in the 70s by locals. It only took them 9 weeks to complete the theater. Now, the theater itself is an outdoor theater, so when we pass by it, you'll notice that the light structures are actually on the outside of it, and that they tower over the top of it. You can kind of see some through the trees here. Now the acting program that usually performs in there at BCPA, they always do very high quality stuff. Really good shows that get actors from all over the country to come and perform in these shows. So, you know, really cool. Because it is an outdoor theater, it's a very immersive experience. You're seeing, you know, the stars and stuff in the night. Theater is also where we have a lot of events. We got the haunted house in here this Halloween. You'll see a poster of some of the shows that we put on this past year. They were all great. Now, in addition to a ton of plays throughout the year, this theater also does a bunch of live music and also private events too, like weddings. Now, I know they do weddings in there because my aunt's going to get married there soon, and they're going to force me to be a chauffeur and a waiter at the wedding, so that's going to be a lot of fun. But you know what isn't going to be fun is saying goodbye. Now, we're sadly reaching the end of the tour, so it's time for me to give my sad, sentimental ending speech. And if you heard it while you were standing in line, just pretend you didn't. Goodbye. I hope that you guys all enjoyed the tour. I hope that you learned something, and most importantly for me, I hope that you were able to laugh. Now, with that being said, please make sure that you watch your step on the way out, and have a great rest of your evening here in Solvang. Thank you, everyone.
Alright, here's one last video of the trolley going by. Now I'll see you all probably a week from Wednesday. This Wednesday I'm going to be pretty busy. So a week from Wednesday will be good. Or I might be at the train depot on Saturday. Who knows?